From the book of Rumi, 105 Stories and Fables. Students and teacher. The students were exasperated by their dreadfully strict teacher, who never allowed them a moment's respite. Every day, they conjured up naughty plans to distract him but somehow never managed to fool him. One day, the cleverest of the boys, who was also the most streetwise, came up with a brilliant plan. As his classmates gathered around him after school, he explained to them. "Tomorrow morning when we come to school, I'll approach the master first and ask him how he feels and why he's looking so pale. I'll wish him well and say that he should take better care of himself. Then, you all should follow my lead and one after the other repeat the same questions so that we can instill doubt in his heart. After the fifth or sixth person, surely he must begin to wonder whether we've got a point or not. When 30 of us have told him the same thing, he'll have no choice but to believe us and let us off school at least for a couple of days." The boys were all excited and commended the clever boy for his astute idea. The boy made them all promise not to tell their parents and stick to their scheme. The next morning, the students were all on time and awaited the arrival of the clever boy, for they could not begin their plot without him. As soon as he arrived, they nodded to each other and one by one entered the classroom. "Good morning to you, sir. Are you all right, sir? Why do you seem so pale this fine morning?" said the clever boy to the teacher cunningly. "I'm perfectly fine. What are you blabbering about? Go sit down in your seat," the teacher ordered the boy in his usual abrasive manner. The first seed of doubt had been planted. The students then walked into the classroom one after the other and each addressed the teacher in turn, commenting with concern on the latter's health. Despite his repeated denials, the teacher slowly began to believe the boys, as he had heard the same remark about his pale countenance 30 times. He began to shiver and actually feel feverish. Soon, he was hastily packing his papers and books and hurrying home, with 30 boys in tow. All the way home, he was thinking about how his wife had recently been neglecting him, and how despite all his kindness and generosity she'd been wishing him ill. Entertaining these negative thoughts about his innocent wife, the teacher hastened through the narrow back streets to his humble home, while the boys followed him closely every step of the way. He slammed the front door noisily, intending thus to announce his untimely arrival to his wife as he entered their house. When she saw that he had returned from school so early, she quickly approached him and inquired about his health. "Are you blind? Don't you see how sick I am? You're such a hypocrite. You can very well see how awful I'm feeling, yet you pretend that nothing's the matter with me," he retorted. "My darling, what are you saying? You must be suffering from delusions." "Nothing is the matter with you," his wife said, trying to appease his anger. "You're despicable, you're a horrid woman. Can't you see my sorry state? Is it my fault that you're blind and deaf to my needs?" he continued, cruelly slandering his wife. "I'm going to bring you the mirror so you can see for yourself that nothing's the matter with you. To hell with your mirror. You've always hated me and wished me the worst. Go and prepare my bed, I need to rest." The woman was stunned, unable to move or decide what she should do, when her husband screamed at her, "Get going, you good-for-nothing. Do you want me to pass out right here?" The woman decided to remain quiet and do as he asked, otherwise, he might indeed think that she had foul intentions, and he could truly turn nasty. Thus, she prepared his bedding on the floor and left him with his students, who had accompanied him into the house. The boys gathered around his bed and began to review their lesson loudly, having been instructed by their ring leader to make as much noise as possible to exacerbate their teacher's fantasy headache. "Quiet," snapped the teacher. "Quiet, I said. Go home. Leave me in peace." The students were free at last. Wishing their teacher all the health in the world, they practically flew out of his house. They didn't go home, though, and instead remained in the streets, playing various games that they'd long fantasized about. Their mothers, however, soon found out that their sons had skipped school, and when they found them on the streets they reprimanded them, refusing to accept that they'd been excused by their teacher. They threatened to visit the teacher's home the next day and find out the truth. And so they did. They found the poor man lying miserably under several duvets, sweating like a pig and moaning in pain. "Dear sir, forgive us, for we didn't believe our sons," confessed the women. "Now we can see for ourselves how ill you really are. May God grant you a long